decades, Iran has been quietly building a playbook that rivals can't predict, and some say it's rewriting the rules of modern warfare. But what's really inside that strategy? In the world of military strategies, sometimes a single misstep can cost a nation its very existence. Major powers, with their conventional armies, multi-billion-dollar budgets, and arsenals capable of destroying the planet multiple times over, have always sought to dictate the rules of the game. With aircraft carriers, stealth bombers, and spy satellites, they control the geopolitical chessboard. Yet in a corner of the Middle East, at the crossroads of global events, a rising power is rewriting these rules. A power that challenges the balance of power not through the sheer number of tanks and planes, but through a unique doctrine, a complex, multi-layered defensive philosophy. What is this strategy that has forced the world's greatest military powers to reconsider their calculations? How has a nation, subjected to the harshest economic and political sanctions in history, managed to become a power that, according to many analysts, shapes regional dynamics from Baghdad to Beirut and from Damascus to Sana'a? Has Iran truly devised a super defense strategy capable of bogging any enemy down in a quagmire of asymmetric warfare, cyber attacks, and precision missile strikes, regardless of their military strength? To understand today, we must look to yesterday. Iran's modern army traces its roots back to the Pahlavi era. At that time, with direct U.S. assistance, the Iranian army had become a highly capable conventional force. Equipped with the most advanced fighter jets of the time, like the F-14 Tomcat and Chieftain tanks, the Imperial Iranian Army was tasked with acting as the regional gendarme under the Nixon doctrine. However, this strength had a fundamental weakness: complete dependence on the West, both in terms of equipment and doctrine. The 1979 Islamic Revolution changed everything. With the departure of thousands of U.S. advisors and a sweeping purge of the military, this conventional force was thrown into deep turmoil. Alongside the transformed army, a new revolutionary institution emerged, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, tasked not only with defending national borders, but also safeguarding the revolution itself against internal and external threats. The greatest test and turning point that forged Iran's new military strategy came during the 8-year war with Iraq, when Saddam Hussein's army launched its invasion with comprehensive support from both Eastern and Western powers. Iran stood almost alone. Arms embargoes made procuring spare parts for Western equipment nearly impossible, and the army was still rebuilding internally. In such an uneven scenario, classical tank-to-tank confrontation would have been strategic suicide. It was here that Iranian strategic genius emerged. Young revolutionary commanders realized they had to change the rules of the game. They understood that their strength did not lie in advanced equipment, but in 3 key elements: motivated and ideologically driven personnel, creative use of the country's complex geography, and the invention of non-conventional tactics. The Iran-Iraq War became a vast military university for Iran, a school that taught commanders how to turn weaknesses into strengths, how to challenge a superior naval force using fast attack boats in the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz, and how to lay the foundation of a missile industry to counter Iraqi city bombardments through reverse engineering and tireless effort. This invaluable experience became the cornerstone of the military doctrine known today, a doctrine based on active deterrence, self-sufficiency, defensive independence, and projecting the battle beyond one's borders to prevent war from reaching Iranian soil. Now, having explored the historical roots of this doctrine, let's dissect its 3 main pillars. Iran's military strategy is like a sturdy tripod, with each leg serving as a powerful deterrent in itself. The first pillar is asymmetric defense. The core principle of asymmetric warfare is, never play by the rules set by your enemy. If your opponent has a highly advanced air force, do not confront it directly in the skies. Instead, make the sky unsafe for them with mobile, layered air defenses. If your enemy relies on complex and costly supply lines, target them with small, agile units. Iran's strategy follows this principle. Rather than building massive aircraft carriers, which are easy targets for missiles, Iran invests in thousands of fast-attack missile boats and swarming tactics to challenge any hostile vessel, no matter how large or advanced, in the shallow strategic waters of the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz. This asymmetric approach is not limited to maritime operations. Iran has extended its strategic depth thousands of kilometers beyond its borders by building and supporting a network of allied groups across the region, known as the Axis of Resistance. These groups, from Hezbollah and Lebanon to various factions in Syria and Iraq to Ansar Allah in Yemen, enable Iran to threaten enemy interests across the Middle East without direct engagement of its own army. This forward defense strategy exponentially raises the cost of any direct attack on Iran, as the aggressor must prepare for responses on multiple fronts from various actors. The second pillar is missile and drone power, Iran's long arm of force and deterrence. If asymmetric warfare is the brain of this strategy, missile and drone capabilities are its iron fist. Despite decades of the harshest sanctions, Iran has become one of the largest and most diverse missile and drone powers in the region, and even globally. Following the bitter city war experiences during the Iran-Iraq War, Iran developed a vast arsenal of solid and liquid-fueled ballistic missiles and cruise missiles of various ranges, such as the Fateh and Zulfiqar families, capable of striking targets with pinpoint accuracy within a 2,000-kilometer radius. The rise of drones has added a new and highly dangerous dimension to Iran's offensive power. Iranian drones, from the Shahid to Mujahir families, battle-tested in Syria and Iraq against terrorist groups, provide a cost-effective, deniable tool for intelligence gathering, surveillance, and precise attacks. This combination of hundreds of simultaneous missile launches and thousands of suicide drones creates a logistical nightmare for even the most advanced air defense systems in the world, providing Iran with both a defensive shield and an offensive sword. The third pillar, perhaps less visible but equally lethal, is cyber and intelligence warfare. Today, battles are no longer confined to land, sea, and air. Cyberspace has become a full-fledged battlefield, and Iran has grasped this reality well. The turning point in Iran's cyber awakening was the 2010 Stuxnet virus attack, designed to sabotage its nuclear facilities. This wake-up call triggered massive investments in cyber capabilities, both defensive to protect critical infrastructure and offensive for strategic operations. Iran is now recognized as a major player in global cyber warfare. Hacker groups reportedly linked to Iran have repeatedly attacked critical infrastructure of regional and extra-regional adversaries, including energy, dams, financial systems, and government institutions. These capabilities allow Iran to strike technologically and economically superior nations asymmetrically, significantly raising the costs of engagement. Information warfare and psychological operations on social media further aim to influence public opinion, counter enemy propaganda, and create fractures within opposing alliances. Theory without action is useless. One of the clearest examples of this strategy in practice was Iran's role in the Syrian civil war. As Bashar al-Assad's government neared collapse, Iran, through a combination of elite advisory forces, the IRGC Quds Force, organizing Syrian national defense units, and mobilizing strategic allies like Hezbollah and Iraqi groups, turned the tide and prevented Syria's fall. Another example was the precise strike on the U.S. Ain al-Assad base in Iraq in January 2020, in retaliation for the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani. Using precision ballistic missiles, Iran demonstrated both capability and will to directly target U.S. military interests in the region. At sea, the 2019 seizure of a British oil tanker in the Persian Gulf illustrated Iran's asymmetric maritime tactics, proving it can threaten vital energy routes in the Strait of Hormuz. Global responses have ranged from concern to respect to attempts at countering this strategy, yet its multi-layered asymmetric nature makes it extremely difficult to combat. Successfully implementing this strategy has made Iran an undeniable actor in Middle Eastern dynamics. Today, no major regional crisis, from Iraq to Syria to Yemen and Lebanon, can be addressed without considering Iran's role and influence. By establishing the axis of resistance, Iran has created a regional power bloc countering U.S. influence and seriously challenging the traditional balance of power in the Middle East. Iran's doctrine has also had global ramifications, serving as a model for other countries and non-state actors seeking to confront great powers using asymmetric methods. At the same time, it has heightened regional tensions, fueling proxy wars and an arms race with rivals like Saudi Arabia and Israel.
What does the future hold? Iran's military strategy is not static. One potential evolution is a shift from a primarily horizontal deterrence approach, expanding influence through regional allies, to strengthening vertical deterrence, based on advanced domestic technologies. This includes greater investment in AI for drones, electronic warfare, integrated air defense, and space technologies. Regional and global competitors will not remain idle. We can expect increased investment in advanced defense systems to counter Iranian missiles and drones. Cyber warfare will become more complex and intense, and efforts to weaken the axis of resistance and undermine Iran's regional allies will continue. The strategic chess game in the Middle East will reach more critical stages, with Iran's primary challenge being to maintain balance among the pillars of its strategy while adapting to emerging threats. Finally, returning to the initial question, does Iran have a super defense strategy? As we've seen, Iran's military strategy is a sophisticated, multi-layered doctrine born from hard historical experiences resting on three solid pillars: asymmetric warfare, missile and drone deterrence, and growing cyber warfare capabilities. This approach has enabled Iran to become a decisive power despite limitations, making any aggression against it astronomically costly. This strategy is a complex puzzle where each piece is essential to complete the full picture, and understanding it is key to understanding the dynamics of power in today's and tomorrow's Middle East.